So welcome, Nikhil. Uh,
Thank you, Manas. Thank you. I'm sorry you didn't play as much football, but your sport is cricket, so you played quite a bit of that.
Thanks. Thank you. So, Nikhil, I'll start with quick questions about you first, and I just talk about the earlier years. In back there in school. How did you grow up? How did sports become an integral part of what you do now? I leave it
Right.
up to to basically take that up.
So, ever since I could remember, my father was a cricketer. He played for Punjab University. He played for with the likes of Kapil Dev, Ashok Malhotra, Yograj Singh, Yashpal Sharma. So they all played together, and I think he was a decent cricketer. But you're never going to make it to the top. Uh, Not all of them. So he's a professor. He teaches costing and marketing. So my earliest memory of me was to play sports with him. And he's very sporty as well. Played a lot of sports, though he specialized in cricket at that point in time. And that's how the Kida of sports was in me. But again, I think like any middle class family growing up, they always want you to focus on your academics. They want you to do well. There's always a fear, just like my father, that possibly if you don't make it in sports, what are you going to do then? Now there are a lot more opportunities, avenues for people, but back then there was barely any. And that's what So I always kind of stayed in the middle, trying to manage my academics, trying to manage my um, sports as well. And to be very honest, I was not the best. I was the most enthusiastic. I wanted to play a lot of sports, but look, for sports, more than talent, you've got to make a lot of sacrifices. You've got to ensure that you leave everything apart. You can't go out, you can't, do anything barring sports. And if you want to combine that with education, it's not the easiest. So I was never the best. Never, I played a bit of table tennis at a decent level. I played a bit of football, cricket, lots of those things, but never, reached a place where I could say I can now play at a level where I could take this up professionally. So that never happened. Growing up, I saw, a movie called Jerry Maguire. I talked to a lot of people that actually I thought, wow, at that point in time, Mark Mascarenhas and the whole Sachin Tendulkar deal hadn't happened. So we didn't know about sports marketing as we know it right now. So I saw this movie and said, wow, that's something I could do. I could manage athletes. I could work in sports management, etc., etc. But that's just a dream. And along that time, around 11, 12, first year of engineering, हमारे यहाँ पहले डिसाइड किया जाता है कि तुम इंजीनियरिंग जाओगे, उसके बाद डिसाइड किया जाता है कि तुम बाकी कुछ क्या करोगे. So आई डिड दैट. आई सेड 15,000 की नौकरी सेफ हो गई अब. That's how we think, in our families, कि इंजीनियर बनोगे तो 15-20 हजार की नौकरी, एमबीए करोगे तो 6-8 लाख की नौकरी. That's how we think about life. But deep within, you always want to go a step further and do something really impactful with your life. Um, and sports was my calling. And I always thought, even if I don't become the sportsman that I wanted to, I wanted to do something in management. My first year of engineering, I knew I had to do an MBA because, I thought the easiest thing to do in life is to become a manager. You don't need a special skill for it predominantly. And sports. So, and then of course I got into Mike Ahmedabad. Even then I continued writing to a lot of football clubs, to a lot of people all across the world to say, can I work with you? I'd work in your retail division, etc., etc. And some of them were nice enough to write back to me and say, look, we're not looking for fresh MBA graduates. And then you tell them, oh, my CTC is going to be high. Thankfully, I went to an FMCG company out of campus, learned a lot, went to a media company, Network 18 Publishing, learned a lot. I also worked. So, but along the way, at all times, all I wanted to do was sports management, sports marketing. And I just kept trying a lot of places, but unfortunately, I never got any opportunity as such. But what I did do was follow a lot of Indian football, which was, people didn't do that back then as much. So I kept in touch with the National Football League, the I League, and there weren't a lot of people with business credentials, who understood a little bit of football and understood Indian football. So around the time 2011, there was a group that had made an investment into a Danish club, which was also looking to make an investment in an Indian football club. And I started pro bono consulting with them as part of the consulting organization. And one thing led to another, which went on to become, the Anglian Management Group. And then, of course, from there on and thereof, Shillong Lejong happened, and the Northeast United happened. And then, of course, today, Glade happened. So one thing led to another once I kind of got in. And once I got into sports management, which is around 2011, 2012, I can't tell you how much of fun I've had working. It never seems like work. So it's easier for you to kind of put in those hours, the kind of work. One of the things that I keep thinking about till now is that, I was a media marketing manager for about 3.5 years. If I entered a room full of media marketing managers, will I be the best media marketing manager there? And I'd be in the bottom 10 percentile. Just, I made it and I, did it successfully because, we're Micans, we have a fair semblance of media and marketing and all of that. So you can manage your job. But, if I enter a room full of sports marketing professionals, do I stand a chance there? I'd say I'd stand a chance there. I won't say I'm the best or whatever it is, but so I'm just trying to compare and say, where did I stand as a media marketing guy, and where do I stand as a sports marketing guy? So it's very important to kind of pursue it with all your might. So that's really about it. Maybe I answered a couple of your questions together.
Speaks volumes about the passion you had, from the very beginning, and alongside the work which you did, you constantly kept pushing for the one thing which you really wanted to do, and I think it eventually, happened.
Yes.
Wow, that's wow. So, also speak about your, years which you spent in Anglian, and I think AICC is where, the entire group. Talk something about that, about the Football Federation. What was your work there, and how did it pan out, post that?
Right. So, as I said, in about 2011, I started consulting the Anglian group. They were led by an extremely charismatic chairman who still continues to be, as a mentor and an investor on our board. His name is Sunny Narang. He's also my personal mentor of sorts. You always need somebody, that one figure who kind of, becomes your margdarshak in life. And I say that for everybody, not just, whether you're a CEO, whoever you are, you need one person, who kind of shows you that light. So firstly and foremost, he kind of showed faith and said, look, do you want to do this? And I said, yes, of course. For all my life, I've been wanting to do this. So first I was consulting them, which eventually led to the investment in Shillong Lejong, which is an I-League club. And then, of course, I joined the group and we started the sports management wing, the sports marketing wing of the Anglian group. And that was very interesting. We started working, very closely with Shillong Lejong. I joined them in the beginning of 2013 as the chief operating officer, trying to, manage the business of Anglian sports. We were also at that point in time managing a page called, social media for Anglian football, which is now known as Khel Now. It's one of India's biggest, platforms for sports. I think they have more than 1.2 million subscribers on Facebook, over 500 million on YouTube. So exclusively for football and live sports, doesn't have anything to do with cricket. By I think August odd, I was appointed on the board of Shillong Lejong. By 2014, the Indian Super League was coming about, and that's how we kind of got into the whole, pitching for a Guwahati franchisee of the Indian Super League, which eventually became Northeast United. So I actually got to sign the inception documents of Northeast United, and it kind of caught the fancy of the entire Northeast back then. But Shillong Lejong was a very robust organization. Those are the kind of organizations I like working for. They're not the biggest football clubs around. So you're talking about a club that's more like Southampton in the English Premier League rather than a Manchester United or a Liverpool, who have a lot of, who are big clubs, a lot of sponsorship, a lot of revenue, so you can put that back into your team and win championship. But we're talking about a club that's, that's fighting above its weight. It's punching much above their weight. So I worked with Shillong Lejong. It was fantastic. I was appointed on the I League marketing committee. We were constantly formulating ways of reaching more and more people with football. The work I thought that we did at that point in time with Shillong Lejong is something that I'd be very proud of for the rest of my career as well. We had some great partners. We had Gioni, we had Aircel on board, Adidas on board, lots and lots of them, and they did some real quality work. For example, our idea was not to put a logo on the jersey and say we've done our work. So if anybody bought, for example, an Adidas Lejong jersey from the official store, their name would go into a raffle. For every home game, which could be attended by 15, 20, 25,000 people, three names were taken out from that raffle, and you would take the penalty in the halftime against the third keeper who was not playing. Now, imagine yourself, what we wanted to do essentially through this activity. One, of course, you engage Adidas consumers who are our sponsors. That's our duty. But rather than just saying, oh, Adidas are our sponsors, we're giving somebody, once in a lifetime opportunity to take a penalty against the third keeper in front of 20,000 people. And I've seen people lapping that experience up. There was a girl who scored, and of course I'm not saying she was not good, but we told mostly our keepers that look, if it's half good, let it go in. Don't go out and be your professional keeper. And when the ball went in, the crowds went crazy, and she from the penalty spot till outside, she just kept waving. And every time she waved, the crowd went up again. So that experience in her life, she's not going to forget. I believe she will not. So, will she remember Adidas and Shillong Lejong for it? I think she will. So that's traction for us. That's the kind of activities we would do. We kind of, we were not just a club that put Gioni on our jerseys and forgot it. We kind of, helped them improve their distribution, helped them talk to people around. And they were really, at that point in time, their MD, their marketing head, I thought were visionaries, the kind of work that we did with them.
And I remember, Shillong Lejong doing really, really well. It was a stadium also which was built. I think, you were a part of the core committee which, formulated that. And I think it worked really, really well. Wow. And, of course, when you talk about interactivity, social media, we in digital marketing, we talk about engagement and interactivity. And I think things like this, in which, you give the baton to the customer eventually, I think that's where the game really is, rather than, pushing out the message again and again. I think it works really, really well. Wow. So I'll come to the next, section of it, which a lot of, the team members here also would be really, really interested in. What is the universe of sports marketing? If you say sports marketing, what all is encompassed in the entire periphery of sports marketing? And what all happens in it on a day-to-day basis?
So look, the universe overall is extremely big. There are lots and lots of things that you could kind of put into that sports management, sports marketing side of things. And the word is interchangeably used a lot of times. The sports management world and the sports marketing world, there's a slight bit of difference, but overall, you'd consider them to be the same universe per se. For example, apparel is our sports brand. So they do a lot of sports marketing. So your Nikes, your Adidas, your Pumas, your Decathlons, your Niveas, your Pentas, all of these are sport manufacturers. Then you can be, of course, in the broadcast business. So you can be a Star Plus, a Sony, a Fox Sports, a Bein Sports. So all of those are also sports marketing, sports management world. Then there are, agencies like us that manage either events, that manage sports stars, that manage, say, sports infrastructure. So that's another business vertical of ours, sports infrastructure. There could be NGOs and, not-for-profit organizations that are working. Then, of course, there are the athletes themselves, the clubs, the IPL ecosystem, which is basically events. In a certain way, you can say it's a league, but it's also a happening. It's also an event. So all your leagues of the world, the NFL, the National Football League in the US, which is the biggest sporting event in the world, in terms of revenue. Then, of course, the EPL, the La Liga, the Champions League. So all of that comes under the sports marketing, sports management gambit as well. which these are established sports properties. The list would go on really. If you're a sports scientist, the sports science world is an offshoot of the sports world, the coaching world, the technical world. All of that is predominantly, it could encompass the sports marketing, sports management world per se. And then, of course, digital agencies, media agencies, you're creating content out of sports. All of those would come under the gambit in some way or the other.
So, these days, many an IPL teams have their, people who write content, create content, interesting content for them, and I've seen that, Manchester United, themselves have a handle of their own in which they, keep posting behind the scenes, some comments, here and there, some interactivity. Right. And I think that's, being taken up by a lot of Indian, Premier League teams as well. We spoke about Rajasthan Royals doing a fabulous job. Similarly, Delhi and the other teams, they are showing what players go through on a day-to-day basis. And I think it is also a good platform for all the sponsors who engage with them to be showcased and brought to the forefront. So, yeah, great. So, Nikhil, if we talk about sports marketing, as a whole, and I'm sure you have been into many pitches, at times to, maybe the players, maybe the brands also for the players. And I'm supposing, where an agency comes into play is that they bring the players and the brands together along with the sport, of course. And that's where it is, I would want to, hear from you an experience of a pitch you did, which you still remember, and how you really, really cracked it. And it was a breakthrough for you, and you would remember, all your life.
I must say that getting all the brands that are part of that were part of Shillong all of them was a fantastic experience. Adidas stayed with Lajong for almost 7 to 8 years. That in itself is the longest standing apparel manufacturer partnership with Lajong, and that too with an I-League club. Look, they're not really an ISL club. They're not an IPL team. So I think one of the things that you were mentioning in the previous segment about people posting a lot of background information is the fact that leagues overall are very visible now. You open any sports channel today, and the only thing that you will see is more or less 5 out of 7 channels, if there's not an Indian cricket match happening, is football. You would Star Sports will have EPL, Star Sports will have even Scottish Premier League now, so the MLS, the Brazilian League, the La Liga, the Bundesliga, the Champions League. There's so much of footballing content that's there. So what do we do as a brand that's separate? And that's why they want to bring people closer to you, because that's where you gain traction. Just by putting highlights, sports content, 95-97% of the time, the moment the live content is away, the content has no relevance unless and until it's an exceptional clipping of some great cover drive or something else. Coming back to your point, I think getting brands like Gioni, I thought that process in itself, and a pitch is not really one episode, Manas. It never happens that we go in, we pitch, and we get the business, and we come back. The business that we are in, and I believe we're fairly similar in a certain way, is that look, we've got to, it's never that somebody calls you up and says, Manas, I have some work. Why don't you come over? Let's do it. It's always a case of you and your team working on it for a long duration of time, and sometimes not even getting it, and still continuing to kind of put forth that great work. I think the wins are always celebrated, but for every win, we're always in with our clients and people for about 100 leads. You will ultimately close about 4 or 5 of them if you're lucky. But I thought Gioni and Adidas, getting Aircel on board. We even had McDowell's and Kingfisher working with us for a long period of time. And to be very honest, it wasn't, just sharing with them that, we're putting your logo on our shirt. we always went in and said, why don't we create a Gioni arena at the stadium? And at that point in time, as much as IPL and ISL and these things at a big level do it now, it wasn't so back then. So every time you walked into a Lajong game, there were 3 Gioni arenas and you can interact. So we put together like a 60, 70 slide activity list, and we kept going and we kept going. And we said, look, this is what we'll do, and this is what we'll do, and this is what we'll do. And we'll also distribute phones for you in Meghalaya. And they were like, wow, they weren't really doing great business back then in Meghalaya. So at the end of it, Shillong Lajong also had a subsidiary that was distributing phones in Meghalaya. And as I said earlier, there were real visionaries to say, look, nobody can understand the market better than you can. Very few clients would you ever go to would say, well, I believe in you because I think you would understand the market better than us. Sure. How many times have we gone to pitches and said, a client says, well, you'd know the market better than us because it's the Northeast. So those guys were brilliant, and I wish we could have continued working for a longer period with them.
Great. Okay. Great, Nikhil. So Nikhil, I'll come to a section which is, more about, personal work and your, own achievements. You've been a writer of, a book alongside Shantanu Gupta called India's Football Dream. And I was one of the first few people who bought it and read it. And I think it's beautifully written with excerpts from the greats, in the country in football. And, any particular instance which made you really pen the book down, I would really want to, know from you.
So it's funny, Manas. When you said you're a writer, and I said, really, am I a writer? Because I had no intention of writing the book. Let me be honest and candid, and I've said this along. I never considered myself a writer. Shantanu had written a couple of books, and football wasn't really his forte. And we met at one of the events, and then Shantanu said, "Why don't you come over? Let's chat a bit about football. Let me see if I can do something in it." And I said, "Okay, half an hour, 45 minutes. I'd come spend with you." That conversation went on for about 4 or 5 hours, including he said, "Why don't we write a book together?" And I laughed at it, and I came back home. I said, "No, I'm not a writer. I'm not going to write it." And that conversation, to his credit, he was persistent enough for about 4 or 5 months. He said, "Look, there isn't really, a book that kind of writes about Indian football and history." And I said, "But look, I'm not a writer. You need a writer. You need a journalist." So he said, "Look, you can do it. The kind of passion that you have, the way, you have a fairly decent writing skills, and we will have help. We'll get some people around to research, to et cetera. And I reluctantly, after, a lot of afterthought, I agreed to it after 6 months from the first meeting. And when I started writing, I would write 200 words in a day. And at the end of it, say, "This is crap. What have I written?" So when I started writing it, which was around 2016, I would write 200 words and say, this is bad. And I can't say I tore the page because, we're not going back to the old days of typewriter, but I would kind of cancel, delete all of it. By the end of it, which was around 2017, about, before the World Cup started, the Under-17 World Cup, our target was to kind of, release the book around then. And we had a good deal in place as well. And by the time, I was writing 2,000 words a day. So I was just going about it, and, it made sense. Not like the 200 words that I wrote that made no sense. So I was writing about 2,000 words a day. I put together the book and to publish the book. And we had a very good publisher there back then as well. So that didn't happen. The World Cup happened, and we pitched to a lot of people, and it didn't kind of fall through. Like our pitches, a lot of them, we missed them by a whisker, and then, it doesn't seem to work. And then we actually pitched to Visasta. And by then, by 2018, I had kind of written 3-4 drafts of it. Between me and Shantanu, we were writing, and, he was going through it, and I was writing, and we were doing. So it was a ready product. But, books like these are date relevant. Vitasta picked it up. They said, "Look, it's a good book. Nothing's happened in this space. And let us pitch it to our partners who are Sage, who are a very, very well-known brand. And they pitched to Sage, and the entire year, Sage had picked only about one or two of their books. This was another book that they picked. They said it's very interesting, and they picked it, and they were fabulous. Brilliant publisher. What I had some really great people working with me on the book, with Shantanu and me, and especially the editors, the kind of effort and work that they put into the book. It was, I'd say, it was quite a different product than what I kind of wrote, in the sense that nitty gritties of it, the flow, etc., was helped by they put a couple of fantastic editors, and that's how the book came about. So if you say what inspired me, of course, football inspires me every day. But the book wasn't really my idea. It was Shantanu's idea. And some things happen. You should always have a hope and belief and just move on and with your gut instinct. Sometimes it happens. It just keeps falling into place.
In due course of time, by a lot of practice, you moved from 200 to 2000, and also in your own mind, you saw the transition from what you thought was crap to a beautiful book which came out. I think that's.
I still can't say I believe it's a beautiful book. That's up to the reader. But at least a product came out, and which was great, and it's something that I can always look back and be fond of. That wow. Effort.
Great. Also, Nikhil, you are an AIFF, AFC, and a FIFA licensed coach.
Yeah.
What goes into what are the things in this?
So look, if you, so I will never, let's say never, because you never know what happens tomorrow. But I have no intention of coaching professionally or otherwise as well. Of course, I do give a lot of input, and a lot of you guys don't listen to it. But that, football is a very, very, very technical, tactical sport, much like cricket. But cricket ke saath kya hota hai? You go to an American guy and say, this is how the sport is played. He will have no idea what you're talking about. When you say your head has to be steady, you should come over the ball, you should take your left leg, and hit it through the line. He will say, kya baat kar raha? Similarly for us, when we didn't have our parents, our father, our mother, or our they've not played the sport. So they're never going to pass on that information to you. So it's a tough sport to kind of just watch and learn over a period of time, also to do it. So and it's very different how we see it as a fan and how the sport is run on the pitch. I am, of course, a guy who's, I'm neither a fan, neither a technical guy. I'm the guy outside who's trying to, I'm a sports management marketing guy. But I always want to learn more, so that, when you talk to coaches, you talk to players, where can you give in more input? And the coaching licenses are very tough, but one of the most enjoyable experiences in life. There's so many things that, very small nitty-gritties that you learn on coaching licenses. For example, I played as a goalkeeper, and I play goalkeeper with you guys as well, but that's more or less because I'm now old. So to hold on to my position amongst much younger kids, I want to make sure that position nobody touches. It's a highly technical sport position to play. I went to a goalkeeping license. One of our goalkeeping coaches told me, it's easy, you can do it, no problem. I will never go to a goalkeeping license again, ever, because the whole day you're diving, and your sides, you're so sore when you come back home. So, but you learn so much. There's so much of decision making, organization, a lot of management skills as well. But technically, you have to be very good. So, what did I learn out of it? Is if I put money value to it, so maybe 10x of what I paid for those coaching licenses. It's you start looking at sports so differently.
So I think it's also the technicality of it. Even if you draw parlance to what we do at work. And if there are certain licenses which can augment, what we do really, I think we can gain much more. And learning is, something which can happen throughout your life, and it only adds on to what you do. Especially in your case, when you are into sports marketing and you have people to talk to who are from the sporting fraternity, I think contextualizing it in their language, I think, is a must. And I think, really, really these licenses and coaching, would really, really help overall.
How do they look through you? Look, if you talk to a coach, and I was a director of a club, now I can sit at the side and, just tell him, "Arey, you didn't win." or I can say and say, look, this happened. I thought there was a lot of gap between your number 8 and your number 10 or your number 6, and they're not playing together. And the coaches know it really quick. They know that how much do you know, and I've experienced it as well. A lot of times I went and told my coach something as but later on I thought it was more as a fan. Plus, you react to everything. Say for example, a boy had a bad game. Then the easiest thing is let's remove him. You watch a football game and say Rashford को निकाल दो, और ये Cavani कैसा खेलता है या कोई और कैसा खेलता है, or that's the easiest thing to do. How do you fix it? Say Pogba is not motivated or he's not. It's so easy for us, but we're talking about a guy who's a world champion. What does it take? Technically is what we need to understand. So it's important to kind of be a little more in control. As for learning, I must tell you, I'm always trying to I think that I live on the philosophy of kicks for life, which is what do you do that you learn today. So I'm learning Spanish at whatever age that I am in. I'm not going to reveal that right now, but I'm saying I get up 3 times a week at 7:30 early in the morning to take Spanish classes. A few days back on Twitter, I was interacting with Asif Kapadia, and he replied. I'm saying interacting. He replied. I was so thrilled. I was like, yeah, we've done this for the day, and that kind of gives me the juice to kind of carry on. So, we must always look forward to doing something that's new and exciting, and learning never stops really. And I say that, I mean it, not like just sitting in a Gyanbazi session and saying, we must learn, but not doing anything myself.
One beautiful thing which you said really was that, a day when the team does not perform really well, you do not replace the team. You maybe, look for things which you can improve overall in them, maybe work with them, to fix those things. And then, get back on the field again to see that, if you're improving, and you give it a certain time and, put a certain effort to improve on a day-to-day basis. I think, parallelly in a work scenario as well, I think that's very, very important that we identify the problems and not the people. Maybe, it is a work in progress, which is there, but maybe that person has the ability to, really get there and perform overall. Great. Nikhil, a very, very, question which I personally believe, and I would want to hear it from you. How important do you think is, our sports in the overall personality of an individual, and how do you think qualitatively it helps improve maybe in work life, in personal life, and otherwise?
Right. So the first question first, how does it improve, a person? And you can ask yourself that question as well. Anything that I am today, in terms of whether I'm persistent, whether I'm, fit, whether I'm, I think about teams, about work, about whatever I do, is because of sports. Of course, it's a lot to do with education and the fact that, where you've learned, your parents' upbringing. But sports, the biggest thing it always teaches you is one, and I'm not saying this because for the sake of saying it, is because you, as an individual, if you play team sports, you're nothing. You can be Messi, but if you play with 10 other bad players, you're not going to win the championship. And, we're talking about the tough competition. We're not saying go play on the ground. So it always, in isolation, yes, you can be a leader, you can guide, but you always have to be kind of, that team does that work for you. You've got to rely, you've got to, trust them. Once you've gotten them in your inner circle, you can take time to get those people in inner circle. And I've been part of so many teams that people thought, this is not a great group. But when they got together, there were no egos. Everybody, it's very funny. When you bring superstars, they want to be a certain place. But when you bring about utility players, and you talk about somebody like an Ajay Jadeja, or a lot of these players who you would not say are a Dravid or a Tendulkar, but they fit in really well. I thought I was a very good utility player. Somebody wanted to play me, and I'm not that great a cricket player, but somebody wanted to play me only for fielding. I'd still kind of chip in. You wanted to play me at number 6, 7, I'd still make 20, 25 runs, and that matters. Similarly, in football, I could play goalkeeper, I could play left back. So a lot of that is from sports, to understand that, get the best work done out of people. 2, we are very persistent. I think as sports people, the amount of losses that you encounter. I think overall in my life, I would have lost 60% of the games, football games that I would have played. I would have, drawn maybe another 10 or 15%. So technically, I'm only winning 25% of games that I'm playing. I'm just throwing rough numbers at you. But because I'm always playing, I'm persistent, I keep going back, I keep trying things. That means overall my win percentage is going to be bigger than a lot of other people. So that जुझारूनेस जिसे बोलते हैं ना वो sports से आती है. And then of course a lot of softer skills. You're more confident. Your body is healthier, and that helps you on a day-to-day basis. As entrepreneurs and as people who work in industries which are, I won't say high stress, but they're very success related. There are days when you keep losing and losing and losing and losing. Maybe you've lost 4 pitches. Now that's a lot of bad hormones inside. There's a lot of negativity. How do you wash it off? There's another way which I'm not a huge fan of, but the best way for me is to go out and work out, to play a sport. You play against good players, the likes of Sohail and all of these people. If you play against them, you get thrashed so badly that the other loss doesn't feel that bad anymore, and you washed off so much of negativity out of your body. So it's very important to get up and exercise. It's just that those 15 minutes of, you must spend at least an hour. If nothing else, go for a walk. Let your mind ease. Listen to some music. Just go for a walk. It has to be done.
Great. I think what we have done is before this session, just this week we've started like a group on Strava in which there's a leaderboard in office in which everybody is clocking in their physical activities, maybe running, cycling, and everything. And we also have some very very inspiring people in office who regularly go out and cycle. There is Shashank and there is Tanya, who cycle regularly. There is Abhishek, who after a back injury, he got onto the ground and he started running, and now he's become so fit that he can manage to run almost 10 kilometers a day, which is why a lot of us got inspired, and we thought that during COVID, since everybody is back home and they're able to manage time as well, so that's something which we have brought up. And I think let's see, everybody is pitching in right now, and we want to be very very persistent with it and take it forward as well. And I believe the team is on it when it comes to that. But great, on sports like that, I also personally believe that it is an integral part of my personality, right now, having played team sport and also table tennis for a long time. I think what it brings, persistence for sure, adaptability, acceptance of what your team is, at times, identifying maybe their strengths and weaknesses and using them for that,
Right.
specific thing there, and I personally believe that it is maybe, if not, it's definitely 60 to 70% of who I am as an individual, apart from the learnings, of course, which I've garnered through the education, through the other things, over a period of time. Wow. Last question, on this front, which is also related to some of the work which you've been doing, and also the Indian football scene. How do you see the Indian football scene coming up over the period of the next few years? And we know that cricket has been a dominant sport in India, and
Right.
a lot of Indian audience is looking at say the EPL and the Spanish Premier League and the other leagues as well. How do you see the entire thing growing in from an Indian context?
So there are a couple of points here. Point number one, football is the de facto biggest sport in the world. There's no competition. Football, FIFA has more member nations than the United Nations. It just falls short of possibly what the church has, but overall it has more number. It has about 245, 47. I don't know the exact number. Member nations. So that's the number of people who play sport. I think it said that 1 out of 6 people in the world know about Manchester United or are Manchester United fans, supposedly. Not that I subscribe to it, but that's what it said. So we're talking about a sport that's the sport that's biggest in the world. It had only two countries to kind of capture their imagination. In today's day and age, if you look back at the 60s or the 70s, India was doing really well. It had a good market for football. China was one of them, and India was one of them. Everybody wants to be here, whether it's the clubs, whether it's across the world. They want people because that's where you'll get the maximum number of audiences. Who tune in, who spend the dollar, or who interact, who buy your merchandise. Having said that, the current such that the overall ecosystem might be around 800 crores. But you would have seen this over the last 10, 15 years. It's been 10 years, approximately 10 years that I've been in the ecosystem. Cricket in 2010 would be 1 to 100 and everything else would start from 101. I'd say today it's 1 to 10 and everything else starts from, say, 11, wherein football, kabaddi, all of these sports would come in. Wrestling, boxing, all of these sports come in. So it's growing. Where is it growing? It's growing in the metros. So you see a lot of young kids playing football, wearing Messi, wearing Ronaldo jerseys. How many India jerseys do we see around? Not many. When I say India, I mean the Indian cricket team jerseys. You don't see that much, but you see a lot of metro, cosmopolitan young kids playing the sport. Plus, there are pockets that are very strong. Punjab's very strong pocket. Northeast is a very strong pocket. West Bengal is a very strong pocket. Has a strong pocket. Some parts in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, strong pockets. So it's growing in pockets. It's growing in the metro. We are predominantly a young country, 25 and below. Predominantly, a majority of our population is below that age, who's exposed to so much now. If I wanted to find out something about my knee injury in 1999, I had no ways to do it. The only way was to visit a physio or a doctor and he'd tell you something and you'd believe it. Now, if you want to buy a phone or a watch, I know you're counting a lot of your steps and you seem to be doing really well there. Excuse me. But there's so much of information now. So we are accessing so much content, so much of information. The sport cannot but grow. And it is growing. We possibly were at about 150, 200 crores, maybe 2013, 14, we are at 800 crores. Does that define the sport? No. The sport is defined by how many people are playing at the grassroots, how many elite players are there. So we will get there. The scene will be such that football comes to a close second maybe. In the near future, can it overtake it? No, it will not happen because the numbers that cricket currently is running at are humongous. That kind of, the IPL is now the fourth biggest or the third, I think the fourth biggest league in the world by revenue. So you're competing with the Premier League. Yeah. Then can you say, can you compare with football in India? No. But if you look at examples in Belgium, in Holland, in a lot of other nations in the world that follow football, EPL is not the number one league. Yeah. So we do have a semblance of what belongs to us. If there was, what are the chances that you will watch, say, a Delhi League match versus an ARM Digital intra-office match? Chances are that you will watch ARM Digital, ARM Worldwide intra-office match because you have people who belong to you, you want to watch them. Similarly, you have some sort of semblance and attraction to India playing. When India does well in football, a lot of young kids, you and me, we want to watch them. It's just but natural. So it will grow. It has a lot of parameters. Also, it's a good thing in a way. We are very democratic, right? So we're not like China wherein they say, okay, 70 grounds you have to set up. So everybody starts setting up 70 grounds. Here, if I say start 70 grounds, so, Manas will ask me why. Why should I do it? I will make only one and I will make it grass ground, not artificial ground. So it's a good process. Look, I'm not contesting.
Have at their hands.
Correct. So, we all work in different directions that we find fit. So that bringing everybody together, we're not like a Japan where everybody moves in that, singular direction, which is also good because it brings about creativity. It brings about different solutions to the world. But it will grow. There's no chance that sport won't grow.
Yeah. So Nikhil, one more, question which is related, also to what we do and what sports marketing, organization would be doing. How do you see the interplay between, say, digital and sports marketing, coming up? and what are the areas where it can be really worked out well, and how can it benefit each other?
So one, look back 5 years. Did you think that Facebook would be broadcasting the La Liga? You didn't believe so. You thought TV was still, when I say TV, I mean your traditional set-top box would, or cable would continue broadcasting sport for the next 50 years. But some people, of course, in the digital world would have said, yes, Facebook will do it. Amazon will do it. Amazon does pick a certain, EPL rights for as well. So that's number one. Broadcast now will, that when we said TV, that TV is gone. It is a mix of digital. I watch most of my football on a Hotstar or on a Geo TV, the local football, etc. So that I don't need a cable connection at home anymore. That's gone. So digital number one impact is that it's going to happen on devices. So that's digital one. Two, my strongest belief is as a marketeer and as a sports guy is that entrenchment is very necessary. I know we go to a lot of clients and work on visibility, and we say, sir, 1 million views. I'd much rather care about that 1,000 or 1,500 or whatever that number is out of that who have been entrenched with our brand. When we 7 times with a brand, and that's where it gets entrenched. I think that seven's changed a little bit, but if there's content that's come up and good, meaningful content that comes from a brand to Nikhil Sharma or to Manus Gulati, we are more likely to kind of get entrenched with that brand and buy that brand. And you can look for examples all across. I'm more likely to buy a certain brand because at some point in time that interaction has happened really close. And now our consumption is digital, Manus. Our consumption on the outside world is getting lesser and lesser. I don't remember the last outdoor that I saw. I can't remember a campaign outdoors which I'd say, oh, Manus, that was a brilliant campaign. 7, 8 years back, OOH was, or 10 years back, when I drove from my office or my house in Goregaon to Dadar, all I did was to watch billboards and say, what's on it now? Movies always went, there was in Bombay, there's this turn in Juhu, which has like 7 or 6 banners and hoarding, and it only has movies on it. So every time you want to know what movie is coming up, those 6 will be it. I don't even remember the last time I went to Bombay, past that thing and saw it and said, oh, everything's digital now. But having said that, there's so much of content that you've got to stand out. And the only way we can stand out is to entrench, is to showcase everything well, which could be pictures, which could be meaningful videos, any kind of innovation. And you guys are better at, innovation and being ahead of the curve than I would be. I'm only talking about, sports, consumer, and content.
Great. I think it was really, really insightful. Also, validating what we believe, can be added as a value to the sporting bit, and we're also, trying to, set up. In fact, we'd have a discussion with you post this as well on that. Okay, Nikhil. So coming to the last part of the conversation, which I think to me is very, very interesting, since I know you and a background as well, into sports, which is a rapid fire. I would, quickly, go through them, and I'd objective sort of answers to the question. Great. So, Nikhil, your time starts now.
You're sounding like Karan Johar now.
I really like Karan Johar, by the way. So it's I'll take
you
that.
Like it?
Yeah,
Nikhil,
absolutely. I
wonderful.
Coffee with Karan. Absolutely. So, Nikhil, here you go. ISL team you support?
No, we work with a lot of them. I can't support one. I'd say I supported Shillong Lajong because that's where I worked. That's where my heart was.
Okay. More football?
I'd say Anirudh Thapa.
Anirudh Thapa. All right.
Yes, he plays for Chennai and the national team. Fantastic talent.
Sure. VAR, do you support or do you not?
So VAR, I'm a huge supporter of technology. Yes, it kind of upsets fans at a lot of times, but I still believe it's important to get decisions right. Given or you the sports move so fast that you've got to kind of have the option of making better decisions. I do support it. Yes.
Sure. Brendan Rodgers or Klopp?
Oh, Brendan Rodgers, Klopp. Although I love Brendan Rodgers a lot, I thought he kind of took Liverpool through the wall.
Ronaldo or Messi? Who is the genuine greatest of all times? And it's something which is being talked about also a lot these days.
So I'm going to fence it on this one and say both. The reason I say it is we are very lucky to have.
Think about it. Choose one. Genuinely choose one.
For me, I'd say Messi. I like him more. But if you ask me what would you want to be, I'd say Ronaldo. He's built himself step by step. Messi is like a natural. There's nothing you can do to be like him.
Sure. Okay. So the next question: if somebody chooses, what team would you choose while playing FIFA? And I think Liverpool is a team you support also,
Otherwise. I do. That's my club as a growing up as a kid. So the team I play with is Dortmund. They have a lot of young, fast players, and they play a system I like. And now of course some of those players have moved, but back in FIFA 20, you had Hakimi, you had Haaland, you had a lot of these faster players, and they move really well on the wing. So I would choose Dortmund.
Okay, so the next is that Arm also has got a fitness bug. So a personal question: how often do you work out? Whenever you do.
My effort is every day, but I'd say 5 days a week.
5 days.
5 days a week is a good estimate.
Yeah, I think the rest days also, which is good, which is what I like about.
They're the best.
They're the best. Then 7 a.m. workout or a 7 p.m. workout for you?
I'd like to do a 7 a.m. workout, but 7 p.m. is actually my workout time.
All right. So you're not a morning person otherwise?
I am a morning person, but working out becomes a little tough. I have a young daughter. We don't know when we'll sleep. So you want to make sure the moment you wake up, so I'd like to work out, but it doesn't happen. But when we play on Saturdays and Sundays, and we play early morning.
Yeah.
And then come back and do our home duties.
Absolutely. Okay. Next one is running on a treadmill or running outdoors. Your coaching, what do you suggest as a coach to the people who are listening to you?
Personally, I'd say either run, but I like running outdoors. It's otherwise on a treadmill, your thoughts they just take you over. On outdoors, you have to be careful. You can. I find that more interactive.
Great. So if you have to have, say, if you have to work out with anyone, any person, who's dead or alive, whom would you really, really work out with, and why?
Whom would I work out with, dead or alive? Now it's a funny one, but I find Akshay Kumar is very fit. He's somebody who lives by clean eating, and I like his fundas in about fitness. I'd like to kind of work out with him. It'd be fun. He eats ghar ka khana, says don't eat supplements, etc., etc. I like his thought process, and he at that age he looks super fit. He's not like those. I don't want to be so cut out body and all of those. But just good, strong core, fit overall, happy. Of course, he suggests don't drink caffeine and all of these things, but work out with him.
Great. So I think that brings us to the end of the rapid fire which we had, and getting some insights to
Where's my hamper?
We'll deliver to you. But great, Nikhil. I think it was really, really interesting knowing about, in entirety about you, the sport, especially about football and the interplay between, digital and, what we do in sports marketing. Also, how important is, sports and physical activities in our day-to-day lives, on a regular basis, how it's also a good source of venting, whatever you have, on you throughout the day. And of course, getting to know your choices. I think they were brilliant. And
Funny one.
wow.
No, I think as an agency, as a digital agency, with all the great work that you're doing, I would say always, I think sports is a great medium. When I say medium, it's also you, brands, customers. I think sports is a great carrier of messaging. It's important to kind of, for everybody who's listening to it, that you could utilize it in so many ways. You can utilize not just the sport. I think that says 1 hour's over. Let's finish it off. But I'm just closing it. I'm just saying, use sports as a vehicle. It's a brilliant sport, sports people, and think of different ways. I know everybody wants eyeballs, so the best thing is to bring a cricketer or somebody wherein you can get the bigger numbers. But some stories are better said with people who, where there's entrenchment. So lesser number of people might see it, but don't let that hamper the story that you want to say sometimes.
Yep. Great. Nikhil, thank you so much for, really helping us understand and also accepting, our invitation. And I think with that, we'll, end this conversation. It was great talking to you.
I had a question in the chat.
Yeah, just can you see it? The question in the chat.
I can't. So you've got to read it for me.
To read it out, Ritesh. I'd open it to everybody to ask their questions also. Yeah. Ritesh?
One second. Hi, Nikhil.
Hi, Ritesh.
Hi. No, I just wanted to ask why the name's late. What is behind the name?
Ritesh, so maybe 5-6 years back, I wrote, look, we are branding guys. We Manas and me, we come from the school where about 20 hours out of 24, we think about brands and we think about names and how. So about 5-6 years back, I wrote a blog called Zlate. Now, Zlate stands for, it's a unique name. There's no word by the name Zlate, but it stands for sports slate. In the olden days, we had these slates which we would write on with chalk, etc. And I thought it was a great thing to coach. You write something, you make diagrams, you show people. And I wrote about sports in a slightly different way. So because there were two X's, I made it a Z. And just as a difference, than writing Zlate as Zlate, I wrote Zlate, which is Zlait. Now the umlaut on top of it, were the teen bindus of Shiv, so a meditative experience with sport. Our colors were blue and orange, which were Agni and Jal. So things like those, it's just also it gives you in marketing we say it gives you a talking point. So every time somebody calls it Zillat, Jalate, that's a talking point. So when we talk, they usually remember Zlate well then. Otherwise it's a tough name. People laugh. Some of the people that I asked, brand ka naam kisi ko yaad nahi rahega. And for digital marketers, I got a 5-letter.com, which is otherwise not possible.
Amazing story. Really loved it. Loved the Shiva angle and elements angle into it. Brilliant.
Yes.
It's planning.
Sports is that way. It's meditative.
And also, while Nikhil talked about it, when we were at Mica, and Nikhil brought out a board, like a slate of sorts, talking about the positions, and which is associated with that, really, really well. Great. Yeah, great. I think we'll close the conversation here. And thank you so much, Nikhil, for all.
Thank you so much, guys. I hope it was meaningful to you. I really enjoyed. I always love talking to Manas. Our conversations are slightly different when it's offline, but this one was wonderful as well.
Great, guys.